Hello, Garrick here. I'm here to say that piracy is not a proper form of boycotting. So, what brought this up? Well, I'm finally getting around to unlisting all of my videos for Clip Studio because, well, there's a problem. There has been a problem with Clip Studio Tips of the Month for like just about ever, aside from it just being an art contest, which does not pay properly. I mean, I've already vented about this before, so this shouldn't be much of a surprise. So, prize earning pool, total prize earning pool, this is not, this amount is closer to what you should be paying a proper artist for a proper tutorial in the first place. Um, or a series of tutorials, I should say. Bronze award is still the tokens. Still the token amount, which expires. It is not disclosed on the page. Still, actual information is hidden away somewhere and is not actually properly disclosed either, from what I remembered. I haven't checked the page itself to say whether or not it's including contest earnings, but hey, given that they've not changed it here, I doubt they changed it over there. In any case, it's out of the way, and basically the information's not very accessible. They're not being transparent about this. End of story. And this is on top of all of the other stuff that they've had going on more recently, which is on actually been quite a while ago already. And that is regarding missteps with AI and their format of getting money, how they're getting money with the subscription thing, which is an issue that Adobe has also been complained about. Adobe's had lots of complaints about this. Um, to be fair, Clip Studio is not going quite as horribly as how Adobe decided to do things, but there have been other problematic things regarding that, so yeah, I do understand very well why people are boycotting Clip Studio and Adobe. Me personally, I am not, kind of. I'm still using the program. And yes, this is a proper license. But mm, I'm not sure about buying further upgrades for the program. Particularly when, well, the first is I can't afford it. The second is I have no real need for it quite yet. Like they'd have to give something pretty spectacular in order for me to even consider the upgrade. Anyhow, boycotts. Why do we boycott? And why is piracy not boycotting? So, the main reason you don't want to pirate something is the legal liability of piracy. The main reason you boycott something is to stop giving the company that you are boycotting any money. If you're pirating the work, you're giving them a chance to earn money. And how do they do that? They file a lawsuit against you for pirating. And because you're getting a lawsuit filed against you, um, the, and it's one that you're likely going to lose. They're going to end up getting money. Because of that, it's completely counterproductive to be pirating the program at all if you're going into professional work, because you're going to be earning money and they would have the rights to basically take it all away. Which is why if you're doing any sort of professional business revolving around these programs, you better be sure as hell you're using a properly licensed program. Do not pirate if you're boycotting, because you're going to be feeding them money in the long run. They mostly go after the big guys because the benefit, cost and time benefits far outweigh the costs. So they're going to be profiting for sure if they're filing the lawsuit. They're going to make sure of that. And before you start going, well, they won't ever find out. No, there's plenty of ways they can find out. There's lots of data, and they can easily slide it within your program or export, and then they can cross-check data. I don't know too much about it. They can easily slip that in. It's probably a common practice nowadays. They can probably check something through that way. I'm not 100% sure. It's probable. Just don't risk it. If you're a smaller guy, you probably don't really feel like this is as much of a concern because you're not going to be big enough for them to start going after you. And yeah, that's fine and all, but that's why I'm going to give you a second reason why you should not pirate if you're boycotting. And that is because competitors. Competitors cannot compete if you are pirating. The first one is exposure, because if the competitors can't even get their name out because you're pirating whatever company and program you're supposedly boycotting, you're not using the competitors' programs, you're not using their programs, so you don't know that they work well enough. Their name is not getting out because you're not going to be talking about, oh, well, this program is good, or these are things that can be improved. You're not giving them feedback to improve their programs. They're not getting feedback to improve their programs, so they're not developing. And development can stagnate for several reasons, and the big one is money, because the competitors are not getting money if you're pirating another program. that you're supposedly boycotting. This is why piracy doesn't actually harm the doesn't actually harm Adobe. It actually harms the competitors more than Adobe, in all honesty, because Adobe is still a very big name. If you actually want to take Adobe down a peg, you would actively support the competitors. Give them the money to develop the program more, give them the feedback, give them the exposure, spread their names, the names of the competitors, and make sure that they can actually fight on even and fair footing. As as it stands, well, the other names exist, but they're not very prevalent. Or, well, a lot of them are prevalent enough, but they're just not developing enough. There's just a huge gap because there's the whole thing with Adobe is, well, they've been a big name for a while, and they've eclipsed the competition for so long that everyone's basically behind. They're slowly catching up a bit, but it's just decades, decades of distance that they're trying to cover. So there's that whole issue. So we've covered the issues why you don't want to pirate a program for, say, work, such as Adobe or Eclipse Studio, but there's also other things that are pirated constantly, such as popular media. I guess this one's a bit more difficult, but yeah, if you don't want to support something, just don't consume the content. So the reason why consuming stuff that you're supposedly boycotting by pirating is an issue is, well, now you have the content, you know about it, you're going to talk about it, the name is going to spread because you're talking about it. And because there's discussion, the name spreading, people are going to reference it. Referencing helps cement the media into society and culture. And because it's referenced, it's cemented into culture, it's not going to be easy to erase. People are going to go back to it, they're going to reference it, it stays relevant, all of that stuff. You don't want this stuff that you're trying to boycott to become relevant. So the best move is to just not consume it, not really talk about the work except for why you're boycotting said work. I think that should be enough for this one. So yeah, you want to limit exposure for whatever you're boycotting. Consign it to oblivion. Don't look at it. Don't talk about it. Don't let it get a foothold. Talk about other stuff. Talk about why you are boycotting said works. I guess if someone's going to argue about, oh yeah, well this story is still great, just shut them down. Just like, we're not going to talk about this. I'm boycotting it. I don't want to talk about it. End of story. Shut it down. Don't let the word spread. Don't like the producer of said work. Yeah, just say no. Shut it down. Don't like what they're doing. Shut it down. Don't give them exposure. So that's basically it. Am I against piracy? Um, that's a touchy subject, and that's like a whole nother talk. I am going to say it's going to heavily depend on context and what's going on. If you're pirating for the sake of piracy because you can get things for free, I'm sorry, you're kind of the scum of the earth. If you're doing it for other reasons, then we're going to have to take a look at all of that on a case by case basis. Hmm. All of the context and the benefits and detriments. Um, this is kind of the reason why we have fair use laws in the United States, because the benefits outweigh the cons. And more specifically, I'm referring to teaching material where teachers are allowed to use up to a certain number of pages in a book or amount of content and show it in a class without needing to get proper licenses or purchase a huge number of books. They can photocopy it or get a smaller clipping of the media and play it in class without any fear of penalty because it's educational, it's relevant, or teaching students, otherwise it's going to cost an arm and a leg and a fortune on top of that, probably. Like, think of how many books you've gotten, you would have needed to get if you did not have smaller pamphlets of excerpts. It's a ridiculous number of, and you know how very underfunded our education system is in the United States. Can't really say for other countries, but at the very least, that's how it is for the United States. So that's why fair use exists. It's to create an exception, an emphasis on exception to the rule to help benefit society, because otherwise it's too costly otherwise. It's just way, way, way too costly. Other things, yeah, it's a case by case basis. And if you're just doing it because we can get free stuff, you're kind of the scum of the earth, because there's so many issues that exist and have been proliferated from people just simply not paying others their proper dues. So I'll basically look the other way if the overall outcome and benefit to society is greater than the detriment. But if you are able to pay for the works, you should be paying for them properly. And that's basically all I'll say. Alright, that's it. Remember that piracy is not a proper form of boycotting. Thanks for listening, Have a good day.